Hello everyone and welcome to this masterclass on SMEs integrating with e-commerce platforms and using fintech. My name is Paul, I'm a lead at CFT and I will be moderating this session. This masterclass is brought to you by CFT, the Center for Finance, Technology and Entrepreneurship, a global education platform providing finance professionals with the knowledge in fintech to thrive in the world of digital finance. At CFT, we are training tens of thousands of professionals from leading financial institutions and tech companies on important trends like AI, open banking, or digital payments. You might have heard of some of our courses, such as the FinTech course of Hong Kong University or AI in Finance with Nanyang Polytechnic. More than 200 experts from the best banks, insurance, fintech startups, investors, regulators help us design programs which are relevant to working professionals in what we call for the industry, by the industry. With us today is Huy Nguyen Trio, who is the co-founder of CFT and a Singapore FinTech Festival ambassador. Huy has an extensive experience both in finance, having been managing director at Citi, and in technology, with an entrepreneurial background in this domain. He's a recognized fintech leader that has designed many fintech programs in leading universities such as Oxford or Imperial College. Over the next 40 minutes, we will take us through the different types of fintech solutions accessible to SMEs and explore how digital platforms now play an essential role in the digital ecosystem, as well as the best ways for SMEs to effectively use them. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Huy to take on the virtual stage.
Hello, and welcome to this masterclass where we will discuss about e-commerce platforms, fintech, and especially for SMEs. So the objective of this masterclass is to discuss about how SMEs can better leverage on technology through fintech companies as well as e-commerce platforms. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Huy Nguyen Trio, and I'm co-founder of CFT, one of the largest global platforms for fintech education. I am also a founding partner of Supercharger, the largest fintech accelerator in Asia out of Hong Kong, a venture partner of Mundi Ventures, an early-stage investment fund in fintech and insurtech, and was also program director of the largest course for artificial intelligence in finance and open banking and platform. I also have different hats. Other hats on the academic side. I am a former associate fellow of Oxford Saïd Business School, where I co-created the Oxford FinTech course, and also a banker. I was formerly a managing director at Citi in London. So let's jump directly into this topic. And as an SME, so as an SME owner or working in an SME, of course, there's a lot of different things that we need to juggle. And as part of this, there are things that can be extremely useful, which are fintech and e-commerce platforms. So I'll show you how, and I'll show you what is the benefit of using those platforms. First, very quickly, what is the definition of fintech and platforms? Fintech in general, at CFT, we have a very broad definition of fintech. Some people think of fintech as fintech startups. For us, it's more about the transformation, the impact that technology is having on financial services. So it can be services provided by fintech startups, but it could be also by banks or technology companies. In general, it's really around digital finance. It's really about, how do we use finance in the digital world? And if we look at this part, which is on digitalization, it's of course part of a broader trend where we've seen the whole world being digitalized. What has happened in 2020 and 2021 is, of course, that COVID happened. And because of COVID, we've seen a huge acceleration of digitalization, where pretty much we've seen 10 years happening in 1 year. Let me show you an example. This is, for example, in the UK, the share of e-commerce as part of total retail sales. And for a very long time, every year, we saw e-commerce growing in terms of market share by 1% every year. So 1% year after year after year. And then because of COVID, last year, we had a huge jump of 10%. So pretty much the level that we would have seen in 2030 happened in 2020. So the whole world has become digital, and in 1 year, we had the equivalent of 5 to 10 years happening. So digitalization is a trend which is here to stay, but which has also hugely accelerated. So as an SME, of course, this is a trend which is really important, which I'm sure you know, but which has to be taken into account. Now, what about fintech? Fintech is an industry which has grown very, very significantly over the last 10 years, more than $200 billion invested over 10 years, and over the last few years, consistently around $50 billion invested in fintech startups. So a very, very big market. What is the impact for you as an SME? I think the impact really is that across all the different sectors of financial services, we have new ways of doing it through digital finance, through different types of companies. And just to take a few different examples, which could be relevant to you, for example, in accounting and finance, there's now a lot of different companies providing accounting services across, for example, payroll and benefits. So for human resources, we would see the same. Business lending, in terms of taking a loan, we would see a lot of new entrants providing this kind of services. Insurance would be the same. And marketplaces, we'll be talking about it, is also the same. So in general, what we have seen is for SMEs, much more offering in terms of digital finance was 10 years ago. We were, of course, constrained by a very small number of players, mainly the traditional banks or insurance companies. Today, there's just much more offering, much more competition, and this is, of course, good for SMEs. Let me show you some examples of fintech. Some of them that we use, some of them that we're very familiar with. So I'm not endorsing any of them at all. It's just examples of fintech offerings. Human resources. So human resources, in terms of SMEs, you might be using a lot of different tools or no tools, perhaps just an Excel spreadsheet, perhaps perhaps you'd be using your accountant for human resources, perhaps you'd have someone dedicated to it. There's a lot of different types of services. One, which is, for example, which I took from Charlie HR. What does Charlie HR do? They gather all the information about all the employees, have this central database, central repository, where you'd have all the information about who's on holidays, who wants to take holidays, about onboarding new employees, offboarding also employees, asking questions to your employees, getting them to, I don't know, where shall we do, for example, our Christmas drinks? You have polls, for example, perks, etc. So payrolls, would be part of it also. So human resources is something that is one example of fintech where you have a lot of companies offering these kind of services. Accounting, of course, a very large part of it that goes from not only the basic accounting, storing information, but also paying bills, submitting VAT, for example, in the UK, but more generally linking to the tax systems, expenses, connecting to the bank, and making a reconciliation of information from the bank, taking payments. So accounting is starting to be much broader in terms of services. This is an example from Xero. Expenses, which is always something which is very time consuming. We've seen a lot of new offerings of providing debit cards to employees. With the challenge, of course, before was about how do I monitor the expenses of employees. Now it can be done through the debit card that has an app, and the person in charge of human resources or the owner can look at all the different expenses, authorize different levels for different types of employees, reconcile that with the accounting systems, for example, and for bookkeeping. So expenses is something that can be done quite easily, and payments, which is really at the heart of a lot of SMEs. Companies like Stripe, PayPal, and others allow now to receive payments very quickly from different types of systems. Can be set up also extremely quickly, and it can be scaled to a lot of different currencies and a lot of countries around the world. So those are some examples of fintech, and we'll spend more time looking at how fintech can be useful for SMEs. Now let's talk about platforms. And I'll start with something which is slightly theoretical, but it's really important to understand what is a platform and why platforms are important for SME owners in the 21st century. So what is a platform first? And there are a lot of definitions of platforms. So you might be thinking of technology platforms, of different apps. You might be thinking of, Apple, Windows, others. Here, I'm really talking about platform as a business model. And when we think of platform as a business model, there are really two definitions which we need to think of. One, which is, let's call that a traditional business model of doing things, which is what we would call a vertically integrated organization. And this is perhaps what you do also, which is an organization which is vertically integrated, does pretty much everything end to end. So they might source the raw material. With the raw material, they would transform it and manufacture it into something, into a product, into a service, into something. They would market it and distribute it to their clients. They would take care of the customer service. So it's pretty much everything end to end, and it can stop at different levels in this whole value chain. This is a very, very traditional business model, and whether it's a product or it's a service, that we would see the whole end-to-end value chain. It's very, very common. Of course, most organizations are vertically integrated organizations, from multinationals to SMEs. However, what we have seen over the last 10 years is the emergence of a very different type of business model, which is called a platform business model. And if you think of a platform business model, that could be companies like Facebook or Airbnb or Uber, for example. And how are they different from vertically integrated organizations? They're different because they're not really taking a raw material, transforming it, distributing it. What they're doing is that they're really matching producers to users. So if we take the example of Uber, Uber is not a taxi company. They're not hiring people, making sure that there's enough taxi on the road, paying for the taxis. Uber is a platform that matches drivers to riders. Airbnb is a platform that matches people who have a spare room to people who are looking for an accommodation, for example. If we think of this business model of platform, and I won't spend a lot of time going into the details, we created a whole specialization of 20 hours on this. I think platforms are really important because of this. If you look at the largest companies in the world, more than half use a business model of platform. So here we listed the 10 largest organizations in the world by market capitalization. And if you look at those companies, more than half use a business model of platform. I took the example of Uber or Airbnb, but a very, very clear example is Facebook, for example. Facebook is not really creating content, for example. They're not really creating a product. What Facebook does is that they connect you, for example, to your friends. They would connect, for example, an advertiser to you. So Facebook is really about matching and connecting different participants. So platforms are really important because those companies which you see, which are quite young in terms of companies, some of them are less than 20 years old, have become the largest in the world. Why have they become the largest in the world? Because in a digital world, having a platform business model means that you're not being constrained by your own resources. You can very easily add 1 million participants. It doesn't mean that you need to create and to hire people for 1 million people. You are only linearly increasing your resources. So platforms are really, really important. Now, we'll talk not about why platforms are important, but much more about how you as an SME can leverage on platforms. Because those platforms grow very, very quickly, because their participants can also be very successful in leveraging the platform. So let's have a look at an example, a very, very simple example. So Amazon, of course. And so what is the business model of Amazon? Is it vertically integrated or is it a platform? So if I let you think for 1 second, is Amazon a vertically integrated business model or is it a platform business model? So there's a bit of a hint because there are 2 arrows here. The first arrow is that Amazon sells products, just like a supermarket. In that case, we can say it's vertically integrated. They sell a lot of products. They sell 12 million products, for example, directly from Amazon. So Amazon would be selling those products. It's not necessarily the product that Amazon created, but it's products that Amazon sourced and sold to us as customers. But Amazon also has a different business, which is called Amazon Marketplace. And on Amazon Marketplace, it's not about Amazon sourcing the products and selling to consumers. It's merchants, around 2.5 million active merchants, selling 350 million products. So much, much more, 30 times more than Amazon itself, to consumers, so people like you and me. So Amazon Marketplace is a platform that connects merchants to consumers. So which means that as an SME, of course, on the first part of the vertically integrated organization, it's really hard to work directly with Amazon, except if Amazon really wants to buy your product. But Amazon Marketplace, there are 2.5 million merchants actually who use Amazon as a platform to sell to the huge client base of Amazon. It is quite successful because out of those 2.5 million merchants, 10% make more than $100,000 of annual revenues, and 1% make more than $1 million of revenues, and some of them make more than $10 million only on the Amazon Marketplace. So it can be quite successful, actually. And to show you how successful it can be for SMEs, you can take the example of Anker, which you might have heard of because you might have bought some of the power banks, for example, on Amazon. Anker started actually as an SME only on Amazon. They only sold on Amazon Marketplace, and they were creating, let's call that, high quality consumer electronics like power banks, like chargers, cables, etc. Anker now is a company that makes more than $1 billion in sales and has also been listed. So it's a public company, which is worth, if I remember correctly, around $6 to $7 billion. It's a very large company that basically leveraged on Amazon Marketplace as a platform. That's one example. There are a lot of other examples. And to show you how some of those companies have really benefited from Amazon Marketplace, you have investment companies like Thrasio, for example, that have raised $1 billion to invest specifically in those businesses on Amazon. So that shows you the huge market opportunity of leveraging platforms like Amazon Marketplace. Of course, there's much more than just Amazon Marketplace. You can think of Alibaba. Alibaba is a very, very good example, perhaps the largest B2B marketplace in the world, but there are a lot of other platforms like this one. So now let's have a look at how can SMEs leverage on fintech and platforms. And here, I would say there's a framework that we like to use in terms of innovation. Again, I won't enter into the details because it's just a short masterclass, not marketplace, but masterclass. And in terms of innovation and transforming your business, there are different ways of thinking about it. One, which I would call a very simple type of innovation, which is about accelerating your business. And I'll take a very simple example. If you were having a horse and a carriage, how can you accelerate your business? And what you can do is that you can have a faster horse. For example, you give some vitamins to your horse. In terms of the carriage, you use better material, faster wheels, state-of-the-art wood, and then you just have a faster, cheaper, better carriage. So that's really fintech. The way that you can use fintech today, it's really about thinking there are a lot of things that you already do as an SME. You can use fintech, which is really around digital, which is really about using modern tools to make all of those things much faster, better, cheaper. So it's less manual, so it's more automated, so it has a better user experience. So you can really think of fintech in that way. And if we are thinking of platforms, that's really different. Platforms is not really about accelerating your business. It's much more about transforming your business. So if you have already really improved your carriage, it goes much, much faster. The next step is not to have like 2, 5, 10, 20 different horses, but is of course the automobile. And an automobile is really, really different. And for you to start driving, then you need to do things really differently. You might have to take a driving license. You might have to understand basically how that thing works compared to a horse. You need fuel in terms of food for your horse. So platforms is different. Platforms is not like fintech. It's not about accelerating your business, but it's really about transforming your business. So that means that it can have huge impact, but does require quite a bit of work. So better, cheaper, faster, that's around fintech. So how do you use fintech for better, cheaper, faster, and what are the benefits? The main benefits really first is digital. You will benefit from a modern interface, which can be on your mobile, on the internet, with a really good user experience. Those are what those fintech startups are doing, but also what a lot of banks are adapting to technology companies are doing. In terms of cost, it's likely to be cheaper in terms of upfront cost, because most of those models are now on a subscription basis. So you pay on a regular basis. And if you have just a few employees, you're not paying a lot. If you have more, you're paying more. They're really good in terms of delegation rights. That might be one of the challenges that you face as an SME. How can I have this person having those kind of rights, this other person being able to do something else and not? That was usually very, very clunky. That works really well with a fintech. And then finally, those are services that are accessible from anywhere, including a mobile, and can integrate into other systems, for example, your bank, for example, your accounting system. There are, of course, some drawbacks also. Some of the drawbacks can be that it's smaller companies. Smaller companies, they are not large financial institutions, so smaller companies, which means that they can disappear overnight. Even some large fintech startups, they are much more risky than large organizations. And stickiness, which means that as soon as you have spent the time to, for example, migrate your accounting system, the system or the user experience, the whole user journey will make it so that it's hard for you to change to something else. Once you have all your data somewhere, it's really hard to change and go into another system. So this is what fintech startups are looking for, which is stickiness, making sure that people stay with them. But on the other hand, for you, it means that it might be harder to change. It's the same actually for other systems, but this is really one of the drawbacks. What kind of activities can be improved? A lot. Here I showed some examples. Human resources is one. Accounting, expenses, processes, all of those which tend to be really internal types of activities. Accounting, expenses, processes. A lot of very, very good tools now have been created that facilitate this process, so that instead of, for example, having one person doing this full time, you could have and usually it might be the owner also doing this. Now you could have a lot of those processes that can be automated, much, much easier to process, being delegated to other people. Customer relationship management, for marketing, for sales. How do you send emails to your customers, store all their data, send them reminders for marketing campaigns? All of those kind of tools are very, very good now. Then if we look more at external activities like payments, banking, of course, lending, all of those activities are starting to be really modern. So, for example, before it was really difficult to have a real-time view of your day-to-day, of your expenses, on the reporting side, then now you have all of those tools that have a very, very good user experience with challenger banks, for example, or on digital payments. You can also access, for example, buy now, pay later. So as a business, you can, for example, offer installments to your clients and at the same time not take the credit risk because someone else will take the risk that your client will not pay the installment. So that's buy now, pay later. So those are the types of activities that can be improved, and you can see that's really about, let's call that, accelerating your business, making it simpler for you, making it very, very digital. This is what you can find in fintech. Now, in terms of the different types of business, the example of the car, the example of using a platform. So it's not about accelerating. Of course, it will accelerate it. You will want more business. But at the same time, we have to recognize that it's really different in terms of the way you do business. What are some of the benefits? The first one is a larger pool of clients. You can't really compete with Amazon. So if you can access the clients of Amazon, that's a much, much larger pool of clients and who can be extremely different from your existing clients because they can be in different segments, in different countries, different industries. So very, very different types of clients. One of the benefits is that the platform does a lot of the work. So they do a lot of the work. For example, they can take payments, they can help you on the marketing side, they can help you in terms of reporting, for example. So the platform does a lot of the work and a lot is pre-populated for you. So that means that growth can be much, much faster. And that means that in terms of your marketing cost and acquisition cost, it can be lower. On the other hand, there are also some drawbacks. What are some of those drawbacks? First, and I think the most important by far, it's a really different way of doing business. And really take this example, moving from a carriage to a car. So they do more or less the same. They bring you from here to there. They have wheels. Apart from that, it's really, really different. The way that your expenses will be different. Your speed will be different. Your activities will be different. So it's a very different way of doing business. So don't underestimate this part. You will be, of course, very reliant on the platform, and you might see higher competition also, and we'll discuss about it. What kind of type of platforms are there? And what kind of type of platforms can you use? There are a lot of different types of platforms. Here, I just listed a few. C2C, consumer to consumer, that's the example that I took, which are social platforms like Facebook or commerce platforms like Uber or Airbnb. In your case, you might be using some of them, perhaps. So if you had a lot of properties, you might be using Airbnb, for example. But you're also likely to use them, for example, for publicity. So you might be doing ads and promoting, for example, your business on Facebook or on LinkedIn, for example. So not as a direct participant on the C2C side, but much more to target those consumers. So that's one. What might be more interesting for you is on the B2C commerce side. So really platforms that helps for commerce for B2C, so for clients which are consumers. And so those platforms, I was mentioning Amazon. Amazon is a very good example of this. That's a way for you to target different types of clients, different types of consumers through the platform. And here there are a lot of different types of platforms. There are platforms which are extremely general. Amazon is an example. You might have platforms which might be more niche. If we think of Etsy, for example, is a platform which is more niche for different types of products. You might have platforms for second-hand products. A lot of different platforms for consumers. So B2C commerce might be a good example of platforms that you can leverage. B2B commerce, so business to business, so not business to consumer platform, is also a type of platforms that you might use either to sell or to buy. So either to sell to other businesses or to buy, to find suppliers, basically. So those are the kind of platforms that either helps you to transact or perhaps, more simply, allow you to connect and find the right counterpart that you'd like to have to help you basically run your business because you need a supplier, for example. You'd have finance platforms. So finance platforms are platforms that can help you, for example, on the lending side, because going through, one bank, two banks, three banks, can be a very, very lengthy process. You have finance platforms that could ask you, what are you looking for? And can aggregate a lot of answers from a lot of different lenders to give you a good offer. Same thing on the insurance side. If you're looking for very specific insurance for your SME, it might be very lengthy to find the right ones. The finance platform can bring a lot of possible suppliers directly on the same platform. And finally, as an SME, you might be looking for resources in terms of hiring people. So you might be using LinkedIn, for example, but you might be also looking for contractors or task-based. Now there's a lot of platforms for freelancers or task-based, people who do like very, very short tasks for 1 hour, half an hour, a few days, which was impossible to find before if we didn't have those platforms. Now that you have those platforms, it is much, much easier. So those are different types of platforms that an SME can use. Let me show you some examples and some ideas of best practices. FinTech, better, cheaper, faster. An example of Wise was called TransferWise. Very simple value proposition, which is when you have to do a payment in foreign currency. Normally, there are very, very high fees. In the case of Wise, what Wise does is that they would do the same, but much cheaper. Very simple example. This is a company that has grown tremendously over the last few years. They are unicorns, so worth more than $1 billion. I think much more than that, actually. They're currently and they have been listed as a company, so they had their IPO. And what they do is now much more than just about FX payments. They also allow SMEs to have a bank account and to have cards also for their employees. What are the pros? The main pro by far is the cost. So the cost, if you were to send $100,000, you can easily save from $500 to $100 versus a normal FX transfer in a bank. So the cost is the main value proposition by far. Then there are other value propositions. It's quite easy to set up and to use. You can have accounts in a lot of different foreign currencies. So if you need to receive money in other currencies, you can create accounts in foreign currencies. It takes a few seconds, and you can have very, very easy delegation. So you can have people in your team, for example, to make transfer or to start the transfer and then validate the transfer. So very easy in terms of delegation. In terms of the cons, the first one and the main one by far that it is not regulated as a bank. And it might not be easy for an SME to know in terms of how is it really regulated. Is it a bank, not a bank? Here it has an e-money license, and which you might not be familiar with, but basically it is not a bank. What is the main benefit of being regulated as a bank is that organizations, financial institutions, which are banks, are more regulated and more protected, which means that if the bank goes bankrupt, then you'd have a payment protection fund that will reimburse part of your money. In the case of TransferWise, they're not regulated as a bank. So that means that if you were to put a lot of money in TransferWise, that is an additional risk of not being regulated as a bank, because it is, let's call that, a private company. It's not a regulated banking organization. So that's the main drawback. There's also the drawback of one additional step. If you were into your bank account and wanted to transfer, let's say, money from British pound to Singapore dollar, you do everything in your bank account. Here you need to send money from your bank account to TransferWise, and from TransferWise either back to your bank account in the other currency or to the other person. So that requires one additional step, which can be risky, which can take time, etc. But you see the main value proposition of TransferWise here is purely better, cheaper, faster. I do the same, very nice user interface, and with a cost which is much lower than traditional payments. How to use fintech? I would say research. You need to spend time and look at the different services which are being offered, the competition, the size of the company, and really think of what is the risk that you're taking. The risk can be extremely small, it can be much bigger. So really think of the risk and then try. All of those companies have a very, very simple user interface. You can easily try with very, very small amounts, for example, and look at the functionalities and test the customer service. That usually, one of the challenges that you might face being small companies, that the customer service might not be great. So try with the customer service also. Now let's look at B2B commerce. So B2B commerce, example of Amazon Marketplace. Amazon Marketplace, you can very quickly go on Amazon and become an Amazon seller. What are the pros? Pros that it's very easy to set up, has a very, very large customer base of hundreds of millions of people, can provide a lot of things, including an infrastructure. In terms of the infrastructure, for example, Amazon provides services like FBAs, where Amazon would store basically your products and send them directly from their warehouses. So you as an SME, you don't have to directly send all the products to all the clients. You just send your products to Amazon in one big shipment. And after that, Amazon would send it directly to all the individual customers. So very, very, let's call that user-friendly for an SME. So you don't have to handle all the requests of dozens or hundreds or thousands of people. Amazon does it for you, and you just deal with Amazon. On top of that, they offer a lot of services, for example, ads, coupons, etc., to promote your products, and you can leverage on the Amazon marketing. What are the cons? The cons is that Amazon Marketplace, of course, wants you to be on Amazon, stay on Amazon, and be part of the Amazon ecosystem. So you're extremely dependent on Amazon, which can be a risk. Because if all your business is on Amazon, there's nothing that says that Amazon can't say, "Oh, no, we don't want you to be on the platform anymore." Then you're losing all your business, which has happened in the past. Some of the cons could be, or is definitely the fact that you're not owning your customer. If you have your own e-commerce website, for example, then you have the direct links to your customer. You have their email address. You can send them an email. You can make promotion. You know who they are. You can understand what they like. Here, you don't really see that. You don't really see that because Amazon has the information, but they're not giving you the information. So you're not owning your customer. So depending on your business, that can be an issue. And finally, competition. Not only competition from others, other sellers on the platform, but also potentially competition from Amazon, because Amazon has their own offering. So Amazon can potentially be competing with SMEs of the marketplace. So that's one example of B2C commerce. Now, B2B commerce. So B2B commerce is more about finding, for example, clients who are other businesses, so not consumers, or finding suppliers. And here I took the example of the largest one in India, which is called IndiaMart. And IndiaMart has a very, very large customer and supplier base, so which is great in terms of the amount of choice. They are specialized in B2B. So if you're looking for a supplier in India, for example, then that would be a very, very good example. And they also verify their participants. So that's some of the pros. Some of the cons, however, and here that's a good example of the due diligence that you need to make for platforms and really understanding what is the role of a platform. You will see that they have a lot of negative reviews. Whether they're valid or not, I don't know. So I can't tell you, but it's just an example. that shows that why do they have a lot of negative reviews? They have a lot of negative reviews because a lot of people say that IndiaMart is more a yellow page rather than a trusted third party. What does it mean? It means that IndiaMart has a lot of buyers, has a lot of sellers on the platform. They say that they verify all the participants, but a lot of negative reviews comes from the fact that the buyers or the sellers are not legitimate buyers or sellers. And so IndiaMart, the criticism say, is basically just listing a lot of people, not really verifying all those participants. So it's really hard for the SMEs, for example, to know if those buyers or sellers are legitimate or not. So IndiaMart is more a listing, like a yellow page, rather than a trusted third party that has done the due diligence. So those are two totally different examples. But so I think that some good tips in terms of how to use platforms, which is first research, of course, always, but really understand what are the rules of the platform. What is the platform basically doing in terms of governance? What can you do? What cannot you do? What is the objective of the platform? What are they trying to do? So, and knowing that you are likely to have a lot of platforms that you can use. So first, rules of the platform. Secondly, the role of the platform. Took the example of IndiaMart. What is the role of the platform? Are they just listing things? Are they doing a due diligence? Will they pay you? If there's an issue? In the case of Amazon, what is the role of the platform? How will they advertise, for example, your product? Do you need to pay to advertise your product? Then what is the role of the participants? Who are the different participants and what are they doing? I would say the most important activity for you before using a platform is really to understand what is your role, what is it that you have to do. This is why I said that it's really different compared to what you do outside of a platform in a traditional business model, because what is your activity? What do you have to do and what does the platform do? For example, payments or marketing or shipping or promotion, sales, etc. What is it that you have to do? VAT, for example, extra tax, reporting. What is it that you have to do? And what is it that the platform does? This is linked to the rules of the game, what I call the rules of the game. The platform is let's call that, is an ecosystem. It's a game with its own rules. So you really need to understand, if you join the game, then what does it mean? What do you have to do? How do you leverage it? How do you best use the platform to improve your business? For that, that means that there will be some resources required, whether it's money to, for example, promote your product, or resources in terms of people on your side. I don't know, to do some reporting or consolidation or marketing or whatever it is. There will be some risk involved. What kind of risk? Is it higher competition? Is it in terms of your reputation on the platform? What are the risks involved? And the economics, which are likely to be very different from what you do, because of course the platform will take some of the economics. They won't do it for free. So how much do they take? 10, 15, 20, 30%. Does it work for you or not? So some of the economics will be important in terms of extra costs. On the other hand, there will be extra revenues also. You might have much more plans. You might be able to increase your prices. So those are different ways of using platforms. So let me just conclude, and perhaps I'll just conclude on this, which is fintech and platforms. They're squarely into this big trend of digitalization of the economy. And as an SME, of course, you really want to leverage this digitalization. And to do that, there are two tools that you can use, which is fintech. And fintech is really about improving your existing business, things that you do internally, things that you do externally. You can do them by using, let's call that the most modern tools, very good user experience, cheaper cost, better, cheaper, faster. I would say don't hesitate to use them. There are a lot of tools available. On the other hand, platforms is really different. Those platforms can be extremely powerful to help improve your business, leveraging, finding much more clients, having international expansion without having to hire a lot of people, for example. So very, very powerful, but it's different. It's a different way for you to do business. So spend time, do your own research, do your own homework. That can be extremely powerful, but some work is required. So I hope that you enjoyed this presentation and that it helped you to understand more about the different tools that you can use in this new digital economy. Do not hesitate to contact me if you'd like on LinkedIn. You can find my name on LinkedIn. And thanks again for following this masterclass.
Thank you, Hui, for this wonderful masterclass, and to the audience for engaging with the topic. If you're interested in learning more about FinTech, CFT has created the world-leading course, the FinTech Foundation Specialization. You can receive an exclusive 20% off the course. Simply remember to scan the QR code on the screen or follow the link sent on the chat. And if you are a Singapore citizen or permanent resident, you are eligible for a 90% IBF subsidy. Have a great rest of the festival and happy learning.